Hello there, good people. Today we're going to be talking about peeling away the facade of perfectionism. Man, we could go so deep with this one. We're not going to because I'm still in recovery mode. However, it is definitely a topic that is one for continuing along whatever journey, whatever your path is in life, because it will often and always come back if especially if you're, type A, super ambitious, perfectionist type of person. And I don't know, do I know any type B perfectionists? I don't know if I've ever really recognized that combination. So let me think about that. But what I will say is that it is man, it is so revealing when you come out of a space, professionally, personally, whatever, just mental, physical space, and recognize like we're just letting perfectionism eat you up from the inside out, and how it shows up. And literally over the last few years for me, it's been a lot about even changing the language that I use, because it goes that deep, right? Not just saying, oh, because saying things as simple as, oh, that's perfect. It's like, no, that's really good. Okay, that's great. But even just saying, oh, that's perfect. Oh, that'll be just perfect. I've like caught myself to adjust that, because the reality is nothing is perfect. And when we pretend that things are, then it leads to this constant need or expectation from ourselves and others for things to be, quote, perfect. And that's basically setting ourselves and others up for failure, bottom line. So I try to remove that word from my vocabulary as often as possible, or to actually use it, with a caveat. It's like, oh, that's going to be perfect for this moment. That's going to be just right for now, right? Um, Not in this absolute sense. I remember when I was working at the agency, well, afterwards, it was actually after I was working at the agency, and I ran into someone in the capital, and this person had taken on some pieces of my responsibilities once I left, and they kind of came at me hard about some of my previous decisions or people that I had hired or whatever. And I was livid. I was just like, "Dear, you have no idea of what I was dealing with and the decisions that were having to be made, really tough, difficult ones, and firing and hiring people to fill the positions that I needed them to fill that were just right for that time." And I did say that on the go really quickly, but for years, that always bothered me, because it was just like, well, what? And I was like, no, that was one of those times when I know I did what I needed to do and it met the needs for that time. And when people come into a situation, whether it's work or business or whatever, expecting things to be perfect ad nauseum, like as if my hiring decision from that previous time would then still be effective or true for this person who did not need to make that hiring decision. They walked into it. That's not fair to criticize other people for something without knowing the facts. I will say that. Because is there a time when after the fact you may be like, I don't know why that was made? Well, yeah. Can you question something? Sure. But attacking someone or going after it, that just feeds that whole perfectionism mindset, as opposed to recognizing sometimes people are doing the best that they can in that moment. And in the next moment or moments, days later, it might not look like that should be the best decision or the right decision. It doesn't make it wrong for that time, for that moment. Now, what does that all mean in terms of this perfectionist thing? For me, it would have actually, there, and another time I would have absolutely started questioning everything that I did. Right? I'm like, oh my gosh, what about this? And what about that? And that gets into that perfectionist mindset of, well, this has got to be just right. And this has got to be just right. And oh my gosh, if it wasn't just right, well, I realized for that particular situation, I wasn't hiring that person for people two times removed after me. I had a specific set of facts. I had a specific situation that needed to be resolved. I had the options of the people that were laid out in front of me to choose from, and I chose what was best for that scenario. And that's the piece about perfectionism where it can take over and become false, because it can make it seem like, well, you make this decision, it has to be perfect for every scenario that comes on afterwards. And that's just not true. It's it's just not true. It's unrealistic. What often is true is that you can take an action, make a decision, um, that is right for that moment, right for the facts as they lay out in front of you, and then move forward with it, knowing that you might need to make an adjustment if that making that adjustment is something that's within your control down the road, or that you may have to come back and be like, that was a tough decision that I had to make at that time, but at that time it was the right one. I'm not saying it's the perfect one, but it was the right one. Because being right and being perfect are not the same thing. One is a facade, one is like this imaginary thing. The other is, hey, knowing these facts, knowing these things, this is the right decision for now. And 2 minutes later, it could not be, because things could change. This is true. And this is that piece of, people expect our lives and our things to be black and white all the time. And that is the lie. That is the other part of the lie. It's like nothing is just black or white. It's not either or, and totally just like, opposite ends. It's always that. There is a whole lot of gray, whole lot of gray, lots of shades of it, right? In the middle. And people want to pretend like the middle doesn't exist. And that's because the middle is often messy. And messy doesn't fit with our need for things to be perfect. And guess what? Doesn't matter. On my desk sits a placard that says progress over perfection. It's facing outward. Sometimes I need to turn it around so I can see it. But that's a constant reminder that I literally have in my office space: progress over perfection. And that is a lesson that I learn each and every day, that I'm reminded of in tiny situations and in big ones. Like, take the next step. Because when we're focused on trying to be perfect, then we get lost in freeze mode, and getting what we call, people want to say, oh, I'm stuck. Well, when you're too busy trying to make something just right, the perfect thing. But again, because things changed in a moment, that's why you can't make the decision or whatever, because you're afraid of, well, what if this is not right? It's not gonna. It is highly likely that it is not gonna be the same in about 5 minutes. And I'm being a little facetious, but totally honest. And so that's that piece where we just have to come to terms with it's not going to be perfect, right? My hair is not going to be perfect. And when it's not, which is often, I have no problem throwing a scarf on. Now, there was a time I would not do that and come on camera because I'm like, oh, is that going to look professional? Screw that. I have things that need to be said, and it's part of a bigger goal and a bigger plan. So am I going to try to work myself up into this frizzy and then lose the plot in the progress in the process? That's the question. Are you losing the plot in the process of being trying to be perfect? Oh my gosh. That is it. Don't lose the plot in the process of trying to be perfect. Man, that deserves its own little placard. Because it's so easy to get off track trying to make something just right, such that by the time you get there and what you think it's supposed to be in your head, it's no longer relevant. And that is the damage we do. It's no longer relevant. And what does that do? That hurts your self-confidence, your self-esteem, maybe even how you're perceived out there, because if you quote guaranteed a certain result without acknowledging, hey, things could change, right? And so that's that piece of what is it? Under promise and over deliver. I think I said that right. Under promise and over deliver. Um, because if we over promise, we're always trying to make something perfect, and then we end up not being able to deliver at all. Ugh, been there, done that as well, right? So, you know, we got to peel away. It's that onion effect. And it's not a matter of, oh gosh, I haven't learned this lesson. It's a matter of, oh, I'm going deeper into this lesson. Let's see where this shows up now. And you learn about where you were putting perfectionism and those types of mindsets on pieces of your life or other people's life that you didn't even realize. And that's a matter of doing the work to uh, undo that, unmask that, and apologizing to yourself or maybe somebody else for that. And it's really important because this hurts not just us now and the people we work with or whatever, but this our kids are looking up to us. There are there are young professionals looking up to us. And if we're not honest about the fact that everything's not going to be hunky dory all the time, and yes, I just said that, if we're not honest about that, they are going to be in for a difficult time when their first major disappointment comes along, when something doesn't work out the way they were supposed to or way they thought it would because it was labeled perfect in that moment, right? And so I always, remind people progress over perfection, and then we'll go from there. And sometimes things will really, will work out and they're like, oh my gosh, that was so great. And be excited about it. Wonderful. But let's not put the pressure on ourselves to expect that all the time. Now, I am not saying not to pursue excellence. That is not what I'm saying. Absolutely pursue excellence in all that you do. Have standards. Enforce your standards. Have be having a desire to achieve at high levels does not equate to perfection either. Let me say that again. Having a desire to achieve at high levels, to be the best that you can be in whatever that situation is also not equated to perfection. And the sooner we learn that, the better off we will be, the more regulated we will be. Oh my gosh, I could have helped myself so many different ways a few years back by recognizing that concept so much sooner. But literally being able to manage our energy and our capacity to get things done at a much higher level when we recognize that things are not going to be perfect. In fact, they're probably going to be really messy, and you can do fantastic work in the midst of mess. Because, hey, I can speak to that several times over with some projects, with some positions that I've dealt with, all of that. And it was a hot mess. And there was also some fantastic work to come out of that. So there we are. Where are you in peeling back the facade of perfectionism in your life, whether it's in your private life, whether it's in your professional life, whether it's in your business, your career? Where is it showing up? And where do you need to peel that back and lay that aside so that you can step into more of who you are authentically, and just making sure that you put out good, solid work, good, solid thinking, exerting, or showing up as a good, solid, with person with integrity and character. That's where I'm headed with this. Because when you focus on being perfect, sometimes your character can come into question and your integrity as well, because perfect may not align with that. That's a different conversation. Talk about perfectionism not aligning with integrity and your values. Whoa, I'll have to save that for another time. All right. So there we are. I hope that this gives you something to think about, and that you will be sure to hit the like button, thumbs up, subscribe, share this out with others as we continue to move forward and refreshing and rebuilding this channel, and helping those folks, especially women leaders, women of color, to be their whole self. That's what I love to say. Authentically leading, uh, building those relationships that really mean something to them, not just today, but later on, and taking care of themselves in the process, making sure to do that. All right. Thanks again for joining. I hope that you remember to celebrate everything that you are, all the little things and the great things in your life each and every day, and in all that you do. Take care.